Here's a question that will really make you think. Why is it that when someone tells the honest truth in a relationship, it often sparks chaos? I'm not talking about the sugar-coated version, the one carefully crafted to protect feelings or avoid confrontation. I mean the raw, unfiltered truth. And what usually happens when you give it? Complete meltdown. Tears, arguments, accusations that you don't care anymore. Yet, if you soften the truth or tell someone exactly what they want to hear, suddenly you're seen as kind, considerate, even perfect. Let's unpack what's really going on here, because once you see it clearly, it changes how you navigate relationships forever. People don't always want the truth. Often, they want to live in a version of reality that feels safe and comfortable to them. And if you challenge that version, if you dare to bring in real-world facts or honest observations, that's when things spiral. Not because honesty itself is cruel, but because it disrupts their perception of the world. When you refuse to bend your own understanding just to make someone else comfortable, that refusal alone can trigger intense reactions. Think of a common situation. Someone asks, "Do these jeans make me look fat?" You know this scenario well. It's not a request for information. They've already assessed themselves. What they're really testing is your response, your willingness to manage their feelings instead of sharing your honest observation. Do you tell the truth and risk conflict, or do you lie and keep the peace? What's fascinating is that the actual truth often doesn't matter. The key is whether you're willing to compromise your own perception of reality for someone else as comfort. This is the real currency in emotional interactions. People respond to the willingness to protect feelings, not the objective facts. I remember working with a client recently, a sharp, successful entrepreneur. His partner asked, "Am I as attractive as when we first met?" They had been together for 15 years, and naturally, life had changed them both. He tried to be tactful, saying, "You're beautiful to me," which seemed neutral, but she pressed, "Am I really as pretty?" He then tried honesty, explaining that their attraction had evolved over time. The response? Days of tension, silent treatment, and complaints to friends. All because he acknowledged reality instead of maintaining a comforting illusion. Meanwhile, the other person may not have made efforts to maintain their own appearance or health. Yet, in the eyes of the relationship, the one who points out the truth becomes the villain, while the comfort of illusion is rewarded. This dynamic is less about insecurity and more about manipulation and power. People often test boundaries in ways that measure whether you'll submit to their desired narrative. They don't just seek reassurance. They want control over how truth is perceived and handled. And it doesn't stop at appearance. These tests extend into every aspect of life. People ask impossible questions that have no correct answers because the goal isn't information, it's influence. If I weren't around, would you still be happy? Do you find my friend attractive? The answers don't matter. What matters is how far you are willing to navigate the emotional minefield to protect someone's feelings. It's a form of psychological leverage. They watch how you handle honesty, how you balance truth with tact, and how you maintain your own integrity under pressure. I've seen this in countless cases. Someone will be asked about past relationships, past decisions, or personal opinions. Any answer, even a careful one, can be twisted or interpreted in ways that cause conflict. Over time, people learn to avoid the truth entirely, not because they lack integrity, but because the cost of honesty is too high. They develop a reflex to smooth over reality with what the other person wants to hear, training themselves to lie subtly just to preserve peace. Why does this happen? Often it's because individuals are conditioned to prioritize feelings over facts. Society, culture, upbringing, all of these teach that emotional comfort is more important than reality. People internalize that their experience of reality is paramount, and they expect others to help maintain that narrative. So when someone asks for honesty, they might not actually want it. They want validation, a way to avoid facing uncomfortable truths about themselves or their situation. Consider business decisions or personal goals. A partner may start a venture that isn't viable, accumulating debt and risk. When asked for an opinion, the honest response might be, This probably won't succeed. But the conditioned reaction often leads to saying, "You're doing great, keep going," even when the truth is clear. Over time, this teaches that honesty is punished, while comforting illusions are rewarded. People learn to lie to preserve peace, and those around them come to expect lies instead of truth. Communication becomes a minefield. Requests for honesty are complicated by unspoken rules. Answer the way they want, or face repercussions. Emotional intimacy is tricky because sharing genuine feelings can be weaponized later. Mention a past attraction or a personal concern, and it can be reframed as evidence of inadequacy. In many relationships, every truth shared becomes potential ammunition. Every vulnerability becomes a test. It's not that one gender or the other is at fault. This is a human behavioral pattern. Many people struggle with honesty because emotional reactions are unpredictable, and they've learned that truth often comes with punishment. Relationships become a complex negotiation between honesty, tact, and emotional safety. People become emotionally strategic. They learn when silence is safer than disclosure, when agreement is safer than truth, and when tactful omission is the only way to maintain peace. The consequences are significant. When honesty is consistently punished, individuals start to lie habitually, not maliciously, but as a survival mechanism. Compliments are inflated, opinions are softened, personal boundaries are compromised. Over time, people lose touch with their own thoughts because every response is filtered through the lens of avoiding conflict. Relationships built on these patterns often appear stable on the surface, but are emotionally fragile underneath. This is the paradox. People claim they want honesty, but they often respond better to the perception of truth than truth itself. They reward reassurance, comfort, and validation, even when it diverges from reality. The more someone feels emotionally secure, the less they tolerate reality that contradicts their self-image. Over time, honesty becomes rare, strategic, and carefully calibrated, and emotional manipulation, whether intentional or not, becomes normalized. Even ordinary communication becomes stressful. Simple decisions like where to eat or what to do can turn into exhausting negotiations because the other person expects you to anticipate their desires and reactions without clear guidance. Requests for reassurance can conflict with reality, and honest solutions can provoke tension. In these dynamics, truth feels dangerous, and silence or white lies feel safe. People also often seek emotional validation rather than problem solving. If the situation is difficult or stressful, they want reassurance that feelings are acknowledged, sometimes before any practical action. This prioritization of emotional experience over facts creates a cycle where honesty is discouraged, lies are reinforced, and the perception of caring is equated with agreement rather than truthful support. Patterns repeat over and over. Someone creates a problem or challenge, expects the other to provide comfort or affirmation. The truth is shared, emotional chaos ensues, and eventually, the person learns that strategic omission or softening reality is safer than honesty. This repetition can erode open communication, emotional availability, and trust. People become protective of their own thoughts, learning that expressing them fully can have unintended consequences. Ultimately, this isn't about who's right or wrong. It's about how human relationships manage truth, perception, and emotional needs. Emotional strategy becomes a survival skill, and honesty becomes a carefully measured tool rather than a natural habit. Individuals learn to navigate these dynamics cautiously, balancing integrity with empathy and personal truth with relational safety. You've had 3 accidents this year, but pointing out any of this, that's emotional violence, apparently. Here's something I've noticed. The people who scream the loudest about wanting honesty are usually the ones who can handle it the least. They say they want a partner who tells it like it is, but what they mean is someone who tells them what they want to hear, but does it with confidence. They don't want actual honesty. They want authoritative validation. I consulted with a couple where one partner complained that the other never shared their true feelings. So, we did an exercise. Complete honesty for 1 session. Within 10 minutes, tears appeared. The partner shared that they felt disrespected, that constant criticism was wearing them down, that the refusal to work while spending freely was stressful. All true, all calmly stated. The response: "This isn't the person I married. You've changed." No, they're the same person. They're just telling the truth for once. The truth you claimed you wanted. But what was really wanted was sharing feelings that make one feel good about themselves. Vulnerability about needing love, not honesty about how behavior affects someone else. The manipulation goes even deeper. Insecurity becomes a weapon to force compliance. "I'm insecure about my body" becomes, "You must constantly compliment me." "I'm insecure about your friends" becomes, "You must cut off your friends." "I'm insecure about being alone" becomes, "You must text me every hour." It's not insecurity. It's control disguised as vulnerability. And if you don't play along, if you suggest working on insecurity instead of making it your responsibility, you're unsupportive and lack empathy. The modern relationship model is basically, someone has a feeling, the other must fix it. If they don't, they're bad. If they suggest the person fix their own feelings, they're worse.
So many people just check out. They go through the motions. Yes, dear, you're right. Dear, whatever you want. Dear, not because they're weak, but because they've learned that engaging honestly leads to punishment. It's learned helplessness. Truth equals pain, so they choose the path of least resistance, mindless agreement, the real. Tragedy, this dynamic destroys intimacy. Real intimacy requires truth. It requires sharing actual thoughts, feelings, and experiences without fear of emotional punishment. But when every truth becomes a weapon, intimacy becomes impossible. You end up with two people playing roles, lying to keep peace. Couples can go decades without an honest conversation. One avoids conflict through lies. The other pretends to believe them to avoid facing reality. They're co-conspirators in a mutual delusion. And they wonder why they feel lonely. You feel lonely because you're not actually connecting. You're performing a script where truth is the villain. Solution: simple but not easy. Stop playing the game. Trap question: refuse to answer. That's a trap. I'm not answering it. Demands validation. Refuse: I'm not going to lie to you. Punish for honesty. Don't apologize. I told you the truth, if you can't handle it. That's your problem. Most people won't do this because they've been programmed to protect feelings at all costs. Comfort a crying parent, fix a partner's mood, apologize for irrational behavior. The programming runs deep, and it's understood. Tears, anger, and silent treatment become tools of control. Here's the advice. Your job is not to manage someone else's emotions. It's not to maintain delusions. It's not to sacrifice integrity for comfort. Your job is honesty, boundaries, and letting others deal with their feelings like adults, if they can't. They're not relationship ready. This requires backbone. The willingness to watch someone have an emotional meltdown without caving. The strength to maintain truth even when met with tears. The integrity to refuse lies even when honesty costs peace. Why? Because submitting to emotional manipulation doesn't earn respect. Momentary compliance may bring relief, but long-term attraction and respect diminish. People know when manipulation is happening. Every time you sacrifice truth, respect decreases. Observing this pattern shows a harsh reality. Temporary comfort is prioritized over authentic connection. What someone wants isn't a lie, they want reality to match their ideal, which is impossible. When it doesn't, resentment grows. Modern relationships often put people in impossible positions. Tell the truth and face backlash. Lie and lose respect. Try diplomacy and get accused of evasion. Stay silent and get blamed for not communicating. The game is rigged. The only winning move is not to play. Why were relationships more stable in the past? Roles were clear. and truth was valued. Words meant something. Emotional manipulation had consequences today. Female emotional manipulation is normalized and male honesty is pathologized. People are told. Their feelings are facts, delusions are valid, and manipulation is empowerment. They wonder why real partners are hard to find. Real partners exist, they just aren't interested in participating in a dynamic where truth is punished. Answer: stop lying. Stop validating delusions. Stop playing the charade. Be honest. Be direct. Let the consequences fall where they may. Yes, it will provoke reactions. Yes, it might be uncomfortable. But living in truth is better than living in lies. For those reading this who might feel defensive, try an experiment. Don't ask trap questions. Don't demand validation. Don't punish honesty. When someone tells you something you don't want to hear, respond with, "Thank you for being honest," and actually mean it. You may be shocked at how much openness emerges when honesty is safe. Most won't do this, because lying is easier than facing uncomfortable truths. Blaming the other for being emotionally unavailable is easier than acknowledging that emotional availability has been made. Dangerous. Growth requires effort. Drop a comment. What's the most ridiculous trap question you've been asked? When did you realize telling the truth was the wrong answer? Share your experiences so others know they're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, some people will see how they've shaped the emotional environment around them.